This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 10th, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a feel-good Friday edition of the podcast. I just took the trash out. It's absolutely disgusting outside. Like soupy, just ugh. Anyway, huge episode today. And before we get into anything, not sure what happened yesterday. A lot of people saying that somehow there must have been a glitch on Spotify and Apple's part. Well, really Spotify, because I upload to Spotify and then everything goes to Apple. But the episode didn't post until late. It was posted on my end, so I apologize for that. But yesterday's episode should be up. Every now and then, I guess Spotify just kind of has those glitches. But it showed me. I even received an email saying that it was posted. So I do apologize for that. Hopefully you're seeing this one. But let's start with the Flyers, and the Ducks rained on the parade. No Leo Carlsson. They matched the offer sheet. So what does it mean for the Flyers? And heard some conflicting reports on both sides on this. But look, I think to me, this is what it means. Obviously, they don't have a big-time player. But I still think, to borrow a phrase from their roommates, the Sixers, they got to trust the process. Does not mean just because you missed out on this guy now, you just got to go spending money willy-nilly and throwing it at people. Make a smart, calculated decision, because the truth of the matter is they were not going to win next year with Leo Carlsson. Sure, they would have probably gone further in the playoffs and had a better season and all that. They weren't winning the cup next year. So this was still going to take some time, still going to need to see some of these younger guys progress. So for me, I still think they're in a good position. They need to do something with the power play. Somebody like a Claude Giroux, who could have been the quarterback of the power play. They still need a center, but I don't just go throwing. Play the long game. Slow play this, because at this point, you have something good building. Don't just throw your money at the first thing you see. And I know a lot of people probably aren't happy with that, but they were not going to win it just because Leo Carlsson came here. There's still some holes and deficiencies that this team needed to address. But I think the big important part is it does make the Flyers players now. So I think you're going to see that they're coming to the table. They're like, all right, we're buying in and we're ready to play at the big boy table. And I think that with the history and the heritage and the legacy of the Flyers, I think that bodes well, because there's a lot of, maybe not so much this generation, but a lot of this generation whose dads were huge Flyers fans. So I think there's something to be said to that Danny Briere is like, listen, we're tired of being at the kids' table. We're now at the grown-up table. And I think they have to do a good job with draft picks and player development and all that. I mean, any sport, that's the key to any success. I'm anxious to see now year 3 for Mishkov, second year now in Rick Tockett's system. He seems like he's motivated. Porter Martone coming in, having a full camp, should be good. But they need some of these other guys to step up. And if you make another run similar to what you did last year, maybe you win a couple games in that second round, all of a sudden they know that Danny Briere is willing to pay good money for quality talent. And I think that goes a long way in helping turn the tide of this franchise. So while it's disappointing they didn't get him, I'm okay with them taking the swing and the miss. I mean, what's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So they took the shot, and I'm good with that. I think now the next step is build off of that. Now you're at the grown up table. What are you going to do while you're there now? Are you going to be the kid who knocks his plate on the floor? Or are you going to have a civilized adult conversation and input into that? Disappointing, yet the future is bright at the same time. Good win for the Phils. Got a little dicey. I panicked. I said as soon as they went up 1-0 and it was up to the bullpen, I was like, yikes. But they got it. 1-0. Luzardo was absolutely outstanding. Like lights out on fire. But good to see Justin Crawford get the game-winning RBI. Starting to be a little bit more consistent. I don't feel as like, oh no, Justin Crawford's up, which is good. I mean, he is still a rookie. And if we could get Gabriel Racones to not challenge in the second inning anymore, that would be great. I don't think and I know they said the number, he's like 6 for 8 in challenges. But I guess every time I see him challenge, it's in the second inning, and it's both of his losses. But man, I don't understand the challenging in the second inning. Not even on a strike 3 or a ball 4, like first strike. Like, come on. But anyway, so they took the series against Cincinnati. They're in Detroit this weekend. Buckle up. Tonight's Aaron Nola night. Which Nola is going to show up? It was also announced that Bryce Harper is going to be in the home run derby. I still think Kyle is going to be in it as well, so it'd be pretty cool to see both of those guys, especially considering they beat each other when it was in DC, or they faced each other when it was in DC. And also, can we give Bryson Stott? That's why I messed up there. I had Bryson Stott on my notes too. Can we give Bryson Stott a Gold Glove? I know what the nerdy analytic metrics or whatever say about his play at second base, but my eye test tells me dude is a stud. Like, he makes ridiculous plays. So can we just give him a Gold Glove this year, please? Anyway, all right, on to the Sixers, and a lot to get to. Well, let's start with the Summer League. I was watching it. I think LeBaron Philon looked very, very solid. Had 18 points, shot 4 for 10 on three-pointers. Didn't have the best shooting percentage night, but 18 points, 7 assists, got off to a hot start. But I think one of the things that I noticed, and yes, these guys some of them are first year, second year players and trying to make a name for themselves, but he just kind of looked in command and poised out there. It wasn't like he was in his first NBA style type game. He looked like he was poised. Maybe that's from playing in the SEC. But I thought a lot of I mean, you can only take so much out of Summer League, but I thought I enjoyed watching him. And I think I saw his interview after the first half. He seemed to know, like, all right, this is what I need to work on. This is what I'm trying to accomplish here in Summer League. It just seemed like he was mature, and like I said, poised is the word that kept coming in my mind. So I'll take it. Not bad for a debut. And Mike Gansey was interviewed by the announce crew. He was like, he absolutely expects him to be a part of the rotation and contribute. So I guess expectations and everything is high for him. So I think he took a good first step in rising to that. All right, so I've been talking all week about everybody's freaking out about Joe and Jalen Brown and all this other stuff. And hopefully, I mean, and again, we'll take this with a grain of salt because, yes, I know. I can already hear the people commenting on these posts. What is he going to say? They haven't spoken, blah, blah. I get it. Absolutely, I get it. But Mike Gansey was on 97.5 Unfiltered yesterday and basically said that he talked to Joe. Joe's the healthiest he's been in probably for any offseason going into his since he's been in the NBA. He's excited I guess he used the word fired up for Jalen Brown. Um, I mean, I don't know what you want. I told you yesterday, or I've been telling you, say it all week. His Twitter has been quiet. I think we're reading way too much into this. Um, and yes, this all could be a big ruse that Mike Gansey is like throwing it out there. So people are like, "Oh, well, Joe's fired up. Joe's healthy. Let's make a trade for him." Could happen. But I know he said that Jalen said he wants to get him in the gym and get him, like, push him, make him a better player. Um, and look, I think here's the thing with Joe. He needs that. Ever since he came to the Sixers, and I forget who it was. It might have been Doc Rivers or whoever said about the stench of losing, the losing culture. The whole time with the process, they all wanted to lose. And then they started to get some success. And then great players. But look at the guys they brought in to play with Joe. You bring in Jimmy Butler, who everywhere he's gone, it's ended poorly, and he's had to be traded or requested a trade or signed elsewhere. With the exception of here, because he didn't get along with Ben Simmons, but that's a different story. Either way, he's gone different places. James Harden, who burns every bridge and left on bad terms everywhere he's been. Ben Simmons, who's just a plain flat-out loser, had some talent, but just didn't want to work at it. So these are the guys that Joe's been playing with. You're bringing in Jalen Brown, who has a winning mentality, played in Boston where the most championships in NBA history. The culture is winning. So he's going to bring that. And I think they haven't had a player to this caliber with that winning mindset. This dude's won a championship. This dude was the MVP in the finals. That's the kind of guy. I mean, and if it blows up spectacularly, it happens. But those are the guys you need to bring into the Sixers building. And Gansey talked about it. He said, "I want fountains, not drains." And I think James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris even, they're all drains. I think Jalen Brown is the fountain. And I think he needs to get in Joe's face. I think he needs to push him. He needs to show him what he could do, because you never know. I mean, you get Joe playing on some type of regular load management or whatever, this team could win. And I think it starts with having the winning mentality that this team, truthfully, has never had since Moses Malone and Dr. J. Yeah, they caught lightning in a bottle in 2000, 2001. But really, this team has not had a winning culture, a winning mentality since 1983. So I think it's good, and I want him to push and get rid of that loser mentality and that the loser work ethic or whatever it is going on with him. Get the stench out, open some windows, air it out in the building over in Camden, and let's go. But he also did say they have one more roster spot to fill, and he is holding that for certain someone. Hopefully this will, and LeBron's doing LeBron things and completely dragging it out and milking it. There's no doubt in my mind he knows where he's going. He's just dragging it out because that's what LeBron does. But LeBron, if you're listening, and you should be, and if you come here and play, you should listen every day. I'll get you acquainted with the culture and the history of Philly sports, and this is the best show in town. Just do it. Just announce it this weekend. Let's get it done. All-Star weekend. You come out, get cheered at the All-Star game. Come on, man. You like the pomp and circumstance. There you go. The All-Star game's here on Tuesday. Let's go. All right, speaking of All-Star game, yesterday's trivia question. Who won the MVP of the 1996 All-Star game? A lot of people got this. I gave you a big hint if you were watching it on my social media, the clip I put up, because I put both of his hits on here. But that would be Norristown's Mike Piazza, who went 2 for 3 with a homer, a double, and 2 RBI. So thank you to everybody who reached out. Going to be, I don't know if today's going to be a hard one or not, but we'll see. Whether you're coaching Little League, crushing your fantasy league, or just rolling up to a bachelor party like a Philly legend, Lotwin Custom Hype Chains bring the energy. Fully customizable, totally unforgettable, and guaranteed to turn you into the MVP of the moment. Great for teams, groomsmen, or anyone who wants to show off with some serious swagger. Go to lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD, and get 10% off your own custom height chain. Lotwin, let's get hyped together.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is Friday. Time for Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Philly Goat has you covered for all your Philly sports apparel needs. Go to phillygoat.com. Make sure you scroll through the website. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. They have you covered for the All-Star. They got the Marsh Thing shirts. They got the Garbage Pail, Bryce, and Kyle Schwarber shirts. They had, it's one of my favorite ones, but the Christopher Sanchez shirt that just says dirty. Love it. So go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. All right, so we're continuing our look at the 66-67 Sixers and letting AI help us kind of figure out where they rank all time. Also, while looking at Wilt to see how he stacks up. So far, they've lost to the 83 Sixers. They beat the 86 Celtics, beat the 87 Lakers, and then lost to the 96 Bulls in epic fashion last week. Today, everybody talks about the modern best team ever, the 16-17 Warriors. So let's see how they match up against them. And this is really a clash in styles. You have the interior, half-court, dominant team from the 60s versus ball movement, hyper-efficiency, space, all that other good stuff. So let's see how this game plays out. Series starts off in Philly at Convention Hall due to the Sixers having, I think, one more win than what that team did. And it was a statement game for the 66-67 Sixers. They controlled the glass, used their size and power, 63-48 rebounding advantage, forced the Warriors into more of a grinded out style, and they had no answer for Wilt. Wilt was unstoppable, 30 points, 25 rebounds. Hal Greer made an appearance finally in one of these games early, 31 points, and they were able to play solid D and force the Warriors into bad shots. So Sixers take a 1-0 lead. Game 2 was actually more the style of the Warriors. It was a shootout, but the Sixers did their part. They were making their shots. Chet Walker had 33, Hal Greer 32, Billy Cunningham 18 off the bench. And the balance scoring, combine that with Wilt's 18 and 21 rebounds, it really made the difference. Steph and Kevin Durant both had 31 points, but they made some silly mistakes on defense, and that really was the difference. But Chet Walker with a double-double, 33 points, 11 rebounds. The series shifts to Golden State then for Game 3, and they made the adjustments. Of course, Steve Kerr, being the coach he is, made the adjustments. They tightened up defense, held the Sixers to 35% shooting. And then finally, the floor spacing that they've been setting up the first two games started to pay dividends. They were able to hit some shots, force the Sixers into some silly turnovers. And this was the Kevin Durant show. Was able to just find holes in the Sixers defense and dominate it, scoring 27, grabbing 15 points as the Warriors cut the lead to 2-1. And then in Game 2, it was a heartbreaker. Wilt Chamberlain was probably one of his best performances in an NBA Finals. 45 points, 21 rebounds. However, they couldn't make the three-pointers, and that was the difference. The fact that the Splash Brothers were hitting the threes. Warriors made 14 three-pointers, shooting 14 for 21. And basically, they were scoring 3 points to Wilt's every two, and that was the difference in this game. Warriors win it 127-122. Really the first close game in this series. The other three games were blowouts, but close game where the Sixers could have taken a stranglehold, but could not hit their threes late in the game. And then Game 5 series shifts back to Philly, and another blowout. Desperation. And this was the Sixers' best game in the series. They bullied the Warriors. They said, basically, old man them. They won the rebounding battle, but They played solid perimeter defense, holding the Warriors to 14% three-point shooting, and essentially that was the difference. Wilt had 28 points, 15 rebounds, but Sixers win at 121-95. They completely just – and we saw that a lot this year. That, like, these modern teams, that's what happens. You can't make shots. You get blown out. It happened to the Sixers more times than I'd like to have had happen. All right, so do or die Game 6 out in Golden State for the Warriors, and they played their most disciplined game of the series, hitting their three-pointers, but really putting a lot of defensive pressure on. They kind of gave Wilt his points, but it was just they clamped down on guys like Chet Walker and Hal Greer and made life difficult for them. And, of course, Steph and Kevin and Durant combined 49 points. And, again, they're 3 points for every 2 of Wilt Chamberlain's, and that was the difference. Warriors win at 124-111, setting up a winner-take-all Game 7. And this was all Warriors. They used a dominant second quarter, outscoring the Sixers 42-27 to kind of run away with this, coasting to a 119-103 victory. Wilt continued to just be dominant, but just the ball movement and the amount of shooters that the Warriors had just proved to be too much. And it's tough when you're not used to. Now, if we'd have adjusted it and everything like this, but when I put it in AI, it was strictly this team versus this team. So everything is there for the error. But it was just the 3-point shooting from the Warriors was just too much. Kevin Durant had 27 in this game. He took home the MVP. He was the most consistent guy for the Warriors. Was able to score inside. Was able to get some moves on Wilt and whatnot. But even though the Warriors lost, Sixers definitely held their own. So from a Wilt perspective, and AI hasn't done this yet, so I guess it's picking up what I'm putting down. But essentially says this series proves that Wilt is error-proof. Even against the athletes of today, he's able to still score at will, get 20 rebounds a game if he has to. And he was hands down the most impactful player on the court during this series. He causes mismatch nightmares for the other teams. And really, if the Sixers could have hit their shots, they could have won this series. And then we are going to do this next week with this year's Knicks teams. But essentially, with some of these all-time great teams, the final consensus from AI is the 66-67 Sixers, and I'm reading this verbatim from AI, are cemented as one of the greatest teams in NBA history. They went 3 for 3. They won 3 out of 7 games against arguably the greatest offensive juggernaut the league has ever seen. The fact that they were able to dictate the pace of the games they won shows that they possess both high basketball IQ and the sheer physicality to stand toe-to-toe with the best of the modern era. They prove they just aren't great for their time. They're an all-time team that would be a championship contender in any decade. So there you go. Certainly deserve to be in the conversation, but they lose to the Warriors. We will put them up against the Knicks next week. If there are any teams, because we're kind of at a crossroads before we get into the Eagles series on this. You want to see any Phillies teams play each other, or Sixers pick up and play any of those other teams? Let me know if you want to see any matchups. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Let me know your thoughts on the 66-67 Sixers. I know this is a big sort of discussion in my family text chain between Wilt and all of that. So that's kind of part of why I've started to do this series. But it's kind of eye-opening for me that Wilt's able to do Wilt things against guys like Moses Malone, guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robert Parrish, and even help lead and make sure his team is competitive against the GOAT, Michael Jordan, and even the greatest team from the past 20 years or 10 years, 15 years, whatever you want to say. So very interesting, but let me know your thoughts on that. That is Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, let's get into July 10th and go all the way back to 1911. And this is one of my all-time favorite Phillies stories. Phillies beat the Cardinals 4-2 at the Baker Bowl, but the story wasn't the game. Bottom of the third, Sherry McGee was called out for looking, argued with the umpire. Guess he didn't like what the umpire said, so he took matters into his own hands and punched him in the face. He was suspended for the season, but he was allowed back after 5 weeks, missing 36 games, and was fined $200 for it. Could you imagine if that happened today? This dude, Sherry McGee, would be banned for life. But Sherry McGee punches the umpire. Phillies did win it 4-2. Grover Cleveland Alexander pitched a complete game, striking out 9. But Sherry McGee provided his own fireworks in the bottom of the third. And then fast forward to 1936. Phillies and Pirates were tied at 6 heading into extra innings after the Phillies gave up 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. But then up stepped Chuck Klein, who led off the top of the 10th. He already had 3 homers in this game. Takes the first pitch he sees deep to right field to give the Phillies the lead, his 4th homer of the game, one of only 21 people in Major League Baseball history to hit 4 homers in the game. Phillies would add 2 more as they win it 9-6. Chuck Klein on the day, 4 for 5, 6 RBI, but becoming one of only 21 players in Major League Baseball history to hit 4 home runs in a game. And then from one Philly slugger to the other, we're going to fast forward all the way up to 2006. Ryan Howard outlasted David Wright to win the home run derby at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. It was the 2nd consecutive year a Philly had won it. Howard, to his credit, hit plenty of balls deep into the Allegheny River. It was a magical season for Howard. He was the all-star that year, won an MVP, 58 homers, 149 RBI. Will we see Kyle Schwarber sniff that 58? It's a good question of the day. It's not necessarily anything official, but do you think Kyle Schwarber will get to 58 homers this year? He was close last year, but let me know. 267-495-8531. That's a Back to the Future voice and text line. Call me, text me, whatever you got to do. But will Kyle get to 58 homers? And then 4 years later, Reds pitcher Travis Wood had a perfect game after 8 innings, but Roy Halladay was just as good, shutting out the Reds through 9 innings. It was still scoreless in the bottom of the 11th when Jimmy Rollins knocked in Chooch for the 1-0 walk-off win. It was their 3rd straight. We talked about all 3 of them this week. 3 straight walk-offs for the Phillies against the Reds. They'd win the 4th game, completing the 4-game sweep. But that just shows how good that team was. They could be not having anything right, get it together, and leave with a 1-0 win. All right, and then finally today, our tournament brought to you by Beach Caddy. If you're in Sea Isle, Wildwood, Stone Harbor, Avalon, or Ocean City, hit them up. They'll take the stress out of your Jersey Shore vacation. They'll move you in, move you out. You don't have to lift a finger. Best beach carts on the Jersey Shore. And be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your move in, move out, and your beach cart rentals. Best beach carts at the Jersey Shore. That's beachcaddy.app. All right, so no real surprise yesterday. Wilt won with 100% of the vote. We expected that. He moves on. Sorry, Eddie Griffin. It just was a mismatch from the start. So the Sweet 16 is set for the Overbrook region. Today we go to the North Regional, final round of 32 here. And we could be in for Coatesville contingent's really going to have to show up for this one. The number 2 seed, Rasheed Wallace, is taking on the number 10 seed, John Tootie Allen. Let's start with Rasheed Wallace. He went to Gratz, 3-time Public League champion, helped lead Gratz to their first Public League championship since 1939. He appeared in 4 title games throughout his high school career, including a 31-0 season in 1993. They were recognized as the national champions that year, the number 1 team in all of the country for high school. He was Daily News Player of the Year, All-City, the USA Today Player of the Year, Mr. Basketball USA, a two-time parade first-team All-American, a McDonald's All-American, considered a top 3 recruit in the country. And it's almost unfair that one of the other top 3 recruits was Jerry Stackhouse, and they both went to North Carolina. Rashid at North Carolina was second-team All-American, All-ACC freshman, first-team All-ACC. His number 30 is retired. He did help them to a Final Four. And then that all led him to be the number 4 pick in the NBA draft. Solid NBA career, 4 All-Star games, was one of those guys that did the things that didn't show up on the stat sheet. Did win a championship with the Detroit Pistons. Also had some assistant coaching stints, but widely considered one of the best players to ever come out of Philadelphia. He's taken on John Tootie Allen from Coatesville. Did lead Coatesville to its first ever PIAA Class 4A championship in 2001. He was 2-time All-State, parade second-team All-American, third team for USA Today. Was an honorable mention for the McDonald's All-American team. Slam Magazine also had him as an honorable mention. He was a leading scorer in the EA Sports Roundball Classic. He graduated as Coatesville's all-time leading scorer, a school that featured Richard Hamilton. Went to Seton Hall, where he was all Big East rookie. Did go over and play professionally in Europe. He's in the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame and currently is the head coach of the Coatesville Red Raiders, coaching up Colton Hiller, who might be on this list in a couple years if we were to have this tournament. But now it's your turn. Who moves on? Rasheed Wallace, John Tootie Allen. Get your votes in any way you can. Winner moves on to the Sweet 16. All right. On this day in 2010, Phillies walk off the Reds for the 3rd straight game, this time 1-0 in 11 innings. Roy Halladay was awesome, but Travis Wood had a perfect game through 8 innings against the Phils. And then I forgot this one. I don't know what happened. 1979, Mike Schmidt tied Dick Allen's team record, 5th straight game with a home run, but they chipped away. They were down 5-1, but Del Unser comes up in the bottom of the 9th, 2 on, 2 outs, hits a ball to deep center field, his 3rd consecutive pitch hit home run, which tied the Major League record. And if you have some time today, I highly suggest you listen to Harry. Look it up. Harry Kalas. It was one of his best calls ever as the Phillies announcer. I don't know how I skipped right over that. I'm slacking, man. I'm slacking today. It's a feel-good Friday, though, so it's all good. But that happened in 1979. Phillies walk it off, but you have to search Del Unser's or Harry Kalas's call on Del Unser's 3rd consecutive pinch hit home run. One of the best. It makes you realize just how good Harry Kalas was. Chuck Klein hits 4 homers in a game on this day in 1936, and Sherry McGee punches an umpire on this day in 1911. Just a badass. Couldn't imagine anybody being like that today. All right, we will be back on Monday where we rewind the weekend. Phillies Tigers last series before the All-Star break. Maybe we get some LeBron news. What does Danny Briere have up his sleeve? We'll recap the Sixers Summer League as well. Big weekend for Philly sports, and the weather is actually supposed to be nice after just a hot, steamy day today. I think the weather's going to break a little bit. But also, let me know your thoughts on the 66-67 Sixers versus the 16-17 Warriors. Oh, and the trivia question. My notes got mixed up, so this is what happens when everything gets mixed up. But in honor of Ryan Howard winning the Home Run Derby, who are all the Phillies that have ever competed in the Home Run Derby? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Any of my social media, at Philly Jimbo, including the YouTube channel, at Philly Jimbo. Man, I completely missed that. It's like I missed a page of my... Anyway, yeah, follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo, but answer the question, which Phillies have played in or competed in the Home Run Derby all time? And then, of course, check out the Philly Hall. Like, again, I'm out of sorts today. Check out the Philly Hall, new Philly Hall. Steve and I talk World Cup soccer in Philly. We talk a little Jalen Brown, a little Flyers, little Phillies. So kind of talked about a little bit of everything. So go check that out wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. Promise I'll be more with it next week. It was a rough week for some reason, but have yourselves a feel-good Friday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 10th, 2026. My name is Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.